Hi, I'm Chris Lee, and this is Virtually Speaking. Joining us today is Walter Bond, a former undrafted NBA sixth man who played for the Dallas Mavericks, the Utah Jazz, and the Detroit Pistons. He later became a sports broadcaster, a television host, and an entrepreneur. Walter is also a two-time best-selling author whose third book was released in 2021 titled Swim: How a Shark, a Suckerfish, and a Parasite Teach You Leadership, Mentoring, and Next Level Success. He's a Hall of Fame speaker who's spoken on over 2,000 stages, delivering his expertise in teamwork and culture, resilience and attitude, the shark mindset, and peak performance. So please join me now with the incredible Walter Bond. Well, hello, Walter Bond, and thank you for joining me here on Virtually Speaking. How are you doing, sir?
Fantastic. This is a true honor to finally make your show.
Oh, well, that's funny. I've always wanted you to be on the show. I'm excited to have you. And, I've respected you and known you as a speaker for so many years. You just, have really done an incredible job of creating a brand and creating incredible speeches. And you even have a new book, which is exciting, which is a bestseller called Swim: How a Shark, a Suckerfish, and a Parasite Teach You. That's exciting. I'm excited to hear about that and have you tell everybody about it. But man, you are a force. Obviously, a former NBA player who wasn't even drafted, and you've had a lot of success in your life. So this is going to be really exciting. And that book, I think, is pretty new, right?
Yeah, the book came out right before COVID, and it was organic. I went fishing one day, and I caught this little ugly fish, and I asked my captain, "What kind of fish is this? And can I eat it or not?" I'm a pretty simple guy, right?
Right.
So he goes, "No, you can't eat it, but watch this." He takes the fish, Chris, sticks it on the top of the boat, and I kept fishing. And eventually I was like, "Hey, man, let's get this fish back in the water." And I asked the captain, "What kind of fish is that?" And he goes, "Walter, it's a remora fish, also known as a suckerfish." And then I'm intrigued because it defied gravity. It was just stuck to the ceiling. And I asked him a question, Chris, that really led to the book. It was an
Wow.
aha moment for me. And I
Wow.
said, how does this fish make it in the ocean? I'm a Midwest guy, right? So I'm used to lakes. And I'm looking at this little weak fish in the ocean. And I'm like, how does this little weak fish make it in the ocean? And this is what he said to me: it's waiting for a shark to come by. When a shark comes by, it's an opportunity for the suckerfish to connect to the shark. And Krista spoke to me at a soul level.
Yeah.
And literally, I couldn't stop thinking about the metaphor of a suckerfish flailing in the ocean, right? Just kind of floating through life. And it's just waiting for the shark, this opportunity to come by. And then I thought about how I made it to the NBA. I had incredible coaches, right? I had incredible mentors. How did I become a Hall of Fame speaker? Incredible coaches, incredible mentors. How did I become a best-selling author? Incredible coaches. Mark Victor Hansen from Chicken Soup for Your Soul heard me speaking about a shark, a suckerfish, and a parasite. It was just a great keynote for me. And he was like, "Dude, you got to write the book. This is like Who Moved My Cheese Good. This is like a great, you got to write the book, and it's got to be a parable." We called one publisher. And as you know, speakers are used to getting rejected, right? We called one publisher. In 15 minutes, they wanted to do the book.
Wow.
And they helped us with the name Swim. And it's about a shark, a suckerfish, and a parasite, and how it teaches you leadership, mentorship, and next level success. And it's a parable. It's a great story. And I have people who read the book and confess to me, said, "Walter, we've never read a business book and got emotional." Because what we really did with the book was capture, first of all, what we call the sacred six. And people compare that to Seven Habits, Stephen Covey. But we also capture leadership in a way that leaders who aren't leading the right way, when they read the book, they're convicted, right? And
Yeah.
it really touches your heart on what leadership really is.
Yeah, and that's something that you've definitely spoken about very well. Not only because you're obviously talking about teamwork and being on a team. You were you were in the NBA. You were one of the elite, few hundred NBA or basketball players in the world, and you had to make it. You had to be on these teams for. I know you were in the league for around three or 4 years, and it's pretty exciting to. Um, talk to people who've been at the elite level of teamwork, because they understand the work, they understand the rules, they understand the mantras and the things you have to be thinking and you have to be doing, which I know you think also includes, you've talked about mentoring, but you've also talked about the power of relationships. That's one of your favorite words is relationships, which when we start focusing on that, what happens?
Well, we're all in the people business. We can say we're in financial services or insurance, or we're in education, or we're in the bureau business or a meeting planner. The truth is we're all in the people business. And there's three kind of people: sharks, suckerfish, and parasites. Right? And if we learn how to manage these three kind of people, it'll make anyone's life and business much more successful. And the truth is, the reason why I picked the shark is that sharks run the ocean, which simply means they're an impact player. If you take your family to the beach, there's only one fish you worry about, right? You don't worry about snappers and yellowtails. You want your kids and a lifeguard to beware, look out for sharks. We all saw the movie Jaws. And the truth is, sharks run the ocean because of the sacred six. They never stop moving forward or they die. Imagine a workforce, that we hear about apathy, we hear about poor alignment. Oh, when I get done speaking, everyone in that building knows that you got to outwork everybody. Why? Because sharks do. Sharks never stop moving forward or they die. They outwork everybody. And that's why they run the ocean. It's really simple. I've made mistakes. Everyone who can hear me today has made mistakes. But if you work hard, you can overwhelm mistakes. Right? You can live on beyond mistakes that we're going to make as we mature. But the worst thing we can do is make a mistake and then beat ourselves up, make a mistake and just think my life is over, make a mistake and say it's over for me, my life is ruined. No. That's not how a shark operates. A shark never stops moving forward or they die. And sharks grow about a foot a year. So the metaphor is growth. And the question I challenge people with is, what are you becoming? Right? What are you becoming? For me to play in the NBA, I had to become an NBA ball player. You can't fake it, right? You can't.
And you were undrafted, so you really had to become.
I needed more time to develop. And my coaches helped me become.
Right.
And I was
you had the power to listen to them. You had the insight to listen to them.
I had to be coachable.
Yeah.
And to give a little bit of a secret, I was the suckerfish, they were the shark. It was my job to connect to them and buy into their core values,
right,
and let them take me where I wanted to go. And the metaphor is, we always hear about people who underperform, underachieve, and there's some reasons why. And the book Swim captures the reasons why through the sacred six. So if anyone just gets the sacred six and embraces it and owns it, they're going to be a shark.
Well, right? Now you have to tell us some of the sacred six.
I can't give you all six. But let's talk about three of them. Or maybe one, work ethic, right? Sharks never stop moving forward or they die. And that means not only do you have a great work ethic, you're also relentless and resilient. Right now, this COVID world, this COVID environment, people are complaining about supply chain, and I'm remote, and I'm isolated, and
a lot of blame going around, period. And a lot of people being offended.
Uncertainty, fear, people are burnt out. People are really evaluating their lives. And so if you're going to evaluate your life, if you think about it, your mindset is an engine, just like a car. Valuable engine, valuable car. Valuable mindset, valuable person. So the Sacred Six is designed to really strengthen your mindset. So here they go. I'm going to give you a couple. We already talked about sharks never stop moving forward or they die. Here's another one. Powerful. Sharks only look up. They never look down, which means they're positive and they don't deal with petty stuff that's beneath them. So anybody can hear what I'm saying, because a lot of people are easily distracted by petty things, petty people, arguments, issues. You didn't copy me in on the email. Like, I forgot, right? Oh, that's a big deal because you didn't. We can make it a big deal, but
right?
To me, that might fall into the petty category. So for me, I think it's important to always look up and never look down. I've been sharing this message for years, and I've had people come to me and say, Walter, I swim with sharks, and you're right. As long as I stay beneath the shark, they don't even know I'm there. If you think about a highly successful person, they're incredibly optimistic. and they don't get distracted by little things that are insignificant.
Mm-hmm.
So those are two powerful lessons that if we can embrace it, we're better already just by working hard and being positive, right? Just work hard and just keep your head up and don't be distracted by little things.
And are the little things also things that people tend to get offended by, or they take things personally? Is that part of that bad mindset?
Absolutely. Some bad news. You know, you hear about a layoff and all of a sudden you go to work like, oh, I know I'm done. Right? Well, why do you assume it's going to be you? Right? You don't. So the bottom line, the mindset is everything.
Okay.
And I can relate to it because I flunked out of my first high school. And the reason I flunked out of my first high school, my mind wasn't right. I went to one of these top academic schools in Chicago. Michelle Obama went there. These are all the smartest kids in Chicago.
Wow.
My older brother or sister went there, but I didn't get accepted. My dad was a high school principal. He wrote a letter and got me in. But the problem was, since they didn't accept me, I felt less than from day one.
Right.
In my mind, I'm not as smart as these kids.
Right.
I only got in because my dad wrote a letter. And as a result, I didn't even compete in the classroom. I got my lunch handed to me, and I didn't really try because I was convinced that these kids were smarter than me, and I can't compete with these kids. Why? Because they're smarter than me.
Right.
You really think about life and what I call the C student. In many cases, it's because we make excuses, we can justify things, and we believe it. Mm-hmm. I really believe these kids were smarter than me.
Right.
And as a result, I sabotage me.
Right.
And so when I meet people and they hear me speak, they think that the fact that I'm a former NBA ball player, that I'm some arrogant, kind of narcissistic monster.
Right.
When I get done, man, the ladies in the audience are like, Walter, I don't even like sports.
Right.
But dude, you're not really talking about sports. You're talking about life. You're talking about excellence. And you're talking about reaching your potential and becoming. Mm-hmm. I became an NBA ball player, and I had to have some great coaches. I had to be coachable, and I had to bust my butt. But I also had to really look in that mirror and be accountable to my weaknesses and what's holding me back.
That's hard for people to do.
Well, accountability is a tough one. And the truth is, you can't reach your potential until you become accountable. It's like accountability is this huge mountain. And if you don't get over that mountain, you'll never get the benefit of the other side. Mm-hmm. So anyone listening today, what have you justified? What excuses have you made? If you're a meeting planner representing a company, what excuses are they using? I do my pre-event calls for my meetings, and that's one of the questions I always ask the CEO or the VP or whoever's helping me prepare, for your C students, what are their excuses? How do they justify it? I had a call today with an insurance company, and I asked them, I'm going to keynote with them next week. They're going to buy everybody a book swim. What are your C students' excuses? Well, we can't get anybody on the phone, and healthcare is too expensive. I want to learn all the excuses so I can refute all of them, so these C students can stop being average and become something special.
Right.
And if I can do it, trust me. Now I'm writing books, and I'm creating trainings, and I'm a kid who flunked out of his first high school.
Right. And then you also became a Hall of Fame speaker, which there's only a couple hundred alive. And you obviously worked hard at that to really, so I've seen this happen with very successful people in sports and music and other areas, these certain types of people who exist that just hear what they have to do, listen to it, take the advice, and then they do it. And because they want to get to where that person who taught them how to do it, told them what to do is, they want to get there. And obviously you've done that in every area of your life, and you became one of the best speakers around.
Here's the truth, Chris. When I failed in high school academically, I was embarrassed. I felt like I shamed my family. My parents are teachers. How in the heck do you flunk out of a high school when your parents are educators?
Yeah.
But it was humbling. And basically my heart was, Dad, what do I need to do? Just what do I need to do? And that's become my favorite question. When I played college ball, sitting on the bench, I had dreams of playing in the NBA, but I had this gap, right? And I went to my coach, like, Coach, what do I need to do? Who do I need to become, right, to play in the NBA? And they taught me what I needed to do to change my academic career, and I did it. My college basketball coach taught me what I needed to do to make it to the NBA, and I did it. So when I started my speaking business, Man, I reached out to Desi Williamson and Les Brown and Keith Harrell. I had some amazing mentors.
Yeah.
And my question was simple: what do I need to do? And I figured out through my coaching and mentoring that great speakers are very entertaining and dynamic, and they give their audience great information. So every time I do a keynote, I'm going to be very entertaining and dynamic. We're going to laugh.
Right.
We're going to think. Your lip might quiver. We're going to touch that heart. It's going to be very dynamic.
Yeah.
But the whole time, I got to teach you something, right? So if I can be entertaining and dynamic, and you walk away with a page full of notes of some things that you need to do when you get back home, I've done my job, right? And so that's what I learned on my journey to become. That's my thing, to become a Hall of Fame speaker, to be very entertaining and dynamic and give great information, but be relatable.
Yeah.
I have failed, right? So how I could not get in front of an audience and act like some arrogant, narcissistic athlete, like I've just been perfect my whole life. That's not my truth, right? I've been on the bottom, right? I've been rejected, and I've learned how to overcome me.
That just makes me think of a question I was thinking of earlier, which is you talked about you were the Suckerfish. And so my question is it more difficult? What is a parasite and a Suckerfish? We know what the sharks are, but you said there's 3 types of people. So how does a parasite or a Suckerfish actually become a shark? I guess if there's only 3 things to become, you want to be the shark. So how does that parasite do that? And who is a parasite?
It's simple. And I wish I could be coy and say, read the book. But when people read the book, they get it.
Of course.
First of all, a shark is a very successful person who has incredible success principles they live by consistently. And one of those is to be a great mentor. You know, sharks kind of get a negative connotation. And the truth is they work in tandem with Suckerfish. Because no matter how big a shark gets, they're vulnerable to parasites. If a parasite can get into the nostrils or the gills, it can weaken or even kill a shark. And so the metaphor is, no matter how big a CEO gets, no matter how successful an entrepreneur gets, you still need people, whether they're employees, vendors. Don't you dare ever get arrogant to think you don't need anybody. Or that's when you're vulnerable. And so in tandem, it's symbiotic. Sharks need Suckerfish, and Suckerfish need sharks. Now, for the Suckerfish, it's easy. I get free rides in the ocean, and I get to eat every time a shark makes a kill. And so for an employee, you get a check every 2 weeks, right? That's pretty good. You get to eat, you get to clothe yourself, you get to feed your children, you get to get lodging and put a roof over your head, right? But you got one job to do, Suckerfish. Keep the shark clean. When you see a parasite trying to infiltrate the shark through the nostrils or the gills, the Suckerfish just eats the parasite. Now, in the metaphor of the book, a parasite in a human is just a selfish person.
Yeah.
The person who's trying to take and doesn't give, right? The shark and the Suckerfish are blessing each other.
Yeah.
I need you and you need me. The parasite is the employee who just comes to work and I don't care about you. I don't care about anybody. Where's my money?
They're way too focused on themselves.
Exactly.
Can a leader change that though? And that kind of a person, can they actually turn those people around?
You know, one of the best slogans of the book is "There's hope for a parasite." Now, if you really think about it, we all can be selfish at any moment in the day. You know, if we're married, we've been selfish before with our spouse. We see our kids are gimme, right? and I'm sure I was no different with my parents. So anyone at any moment could be all 3. To be honest, you know, if you go to work and you only care about you, your review, your promotion, your bonus, and you could care less about this department, that department, your teammate emails you and they need some information for you, and you're like, well, whatever, I don't care, I'm gonna do my job. And you're a parasite in that moment or that day or that week, right? And it's just a selfish person. And so when people read the book, when they get done with the book, one of the characters of the book comes on a boat, and that's why we call it swim. The whole thing happens on a fishing trip. 2 friends from high school were buddies, but they broke apart their relationship. And this is common. You know what happens when you have a friend, one of the friends gets in trouble, and your mom and dad say, hey, you better be careful. You know, be careful of that kid. You know, I don't want you hanging around with that kid. A little bit of bad news. And this is what happened to these 2 guys on the boat. And what happens, they come back 30 years later, and go fishing to reminisce on how their lives were.
Yeah.
Now, one guy, Paul, is like a preppy kind of guy, right? And he comes back and he goes fishing, and all he wants to do is just check on his poor buddy, who kind of gets in trouble, right? And so Scotty, what he didn't know is that Scotty had a mentor, and through this mentorship, his life completely turned around.
Right.
So the guy Paul is coming to check on his poor buddy.
Yeah.
But when the boat gets going, oh man, he's in it for the surprise of his life. And by the time the whole thing plays out, when they get back to shore, Paul is a little bit confused. He thinks he's been a shark his whole life. And he's starting to realize that, man, if I've been a parasite, I'm successful. I make a whole lot of money, but I've stepped on a lot of souls along the way. And I don't have any track record of mentoring or developing anybody else. If you think about the world we live in, we talk about the dog-eat-dog world. You got to go get yours. I got to get mine. And only the strong survive.
Right.
The truth is, if you think about sports, great coaches produce other great coaches. The legendary coach, Nick Saban, he's produced like 17 head coaches, and he's only lost to one of his assistant coaches one time once they become a head coach.
Right.
But to be a legendary coach who's produced so many other great coaches is the ultimate. So when I think about a shark, what are you producing? Right? And so any leader, what are you producing? I just talked to a bank today we're going to work with. And I challenged the guy, I said, man, when your career is over, when you retire, wouldn't it be cool to be able to look back over your career and say, man, I've made a bunch of money, but look at all the bank presidents that I hired as tellers and I developed. Now, which scenario is better? You retiring to Florida with a bunch of money and everybody thought that you were just evil. Or you retire to Florida with a bunch of money, but you're constantly getting phone calls and text messages, and all these incredible people are just saying, thanks, coach. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be a bank president myself.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's what the shark represents. For a long time, I was a suckerfish. I got coached, I got tutored, I got mentored. And the truth is, my father passed away. And that's when I realized, like, man, I've been a suckerfish my whole life. I've had an incredible father. He was my high school principal. I had incredible coaches. But you know what, Walter? Now it's time for you to put your big pants on.
Yeah.
And it's time for you to be the shark. And now it's time for you to coach and mentor other people. And I'm the youngest in my family, so I can play little brother real good. But after my dad passed away, and I went fishing one day, and when I caught that suckerfish, that was my moment.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, little Walter, little brother, it's time for you to grow up, and it's time for you to be the shark. And that's I can't be any more transparent than that.
That's beautiful.
So when people hear me speak, I'm like, I tell you my story. Like, dude, I was a really good suckerfish for a long time, and I made up my mind that it's time for me to be a shark. And now my job is to coach and mentor and help other people become who they dream about.
Yeah, and I also love the analogy or the the truth about what a sixth man is, and that was appropriately almost. Now hearing all of this, that's appropriately also what you were when you played the NBA. Tell everybody a little bit about the sixth man, but what I'm most interested in is that the sixth man, even though he's not the starter, he's not on the starting five players who start the game and who are technically the best five players on the team, the sixth man in a lot of ways can be the most important person on the team, or one of the very most important. In fact, they give an award for sixth man of the year. So tell us a little bit about how you handled that and kind of how that kind of shaped you.
Well, it was a growth moment. When you play high school basketball, you're a star. And then I went to a Division I school, University of Minnesota, and I found myself on the bench, a position I'd never been in, right? And it was very humbling. And I was moping. I was a little sad, a little depressed. And after a long conversation with my dad, my old man was simple, like, look, man, if you can help that man win, you'll play. And then I began to realize, like, well, maybe I can have an impact off the bench. And I became the top sixth man in the country. And the sixth man is a catalyst, right? My job was to come in the game and change momentum. But in the bigger context, it really taught me that if you're on the team, you can have an impact. So in corporate America, a lot of people say, well, I'm only a manager. Well, I'm only a supervisor. I'm only on the front line. I work at the casino, but I'm only a valet. Like, no, you're on the team. You got a jersey. You can have impact.
Impact, yeah.
You can be an impact player. Just yesterday I spoke to an educational, the state of Alabama brought me in to speak to all of their educators. And I used to do educational programs in school districts because my parents were teachers.
Right.
And I would ask teachers a simple question. Who is your favorite teacher and why?
Yeah.
Chris, it would get emotional because everybody had their favorite teacher. And then I would challenge them like, well, what students here are going to relate to you as their favorite teacher? Man, you could just hear like just the sighs in the room, because many of them weren't even thinking that way. And I was like, wait a minute, you had a favorite teacher that impacted you? It just, at a minimum, you should become that for somebody here. Yeah. But one of the teachers said to me, you know what? I never forgot it. My favorite teacher wasn't a teacher. And I was like, what? My favorite teacher was a security guard at the front door. And we were all like, okay. She said, I had a tough childhood. I really grew up in an abusive home. And every morning, the security guard would say good morning, smile at me, and say my name.
Yeah.
And I needed that smile. And it was so touching that her biggest impact player was not even a teacher in the classroom. It was a person who just greeted her and smiled. And that was just enough to help her get through the day. And she would say, man, every morning, I just needed him to say good morning, smile, and say my name. So when we're in leadership, we have a choice. We can be a coach with the whistle, right? Or we can be a fruit inspector with the machete, right? And the truth is, in the book Swim, the man is a guy named Drew. That's all I need to say. Drew is the consummate leader because Drew is the consummate coach. And if you got connected to Drew, you're going to reach your potential. Wow. And that's the whole metaphor between a shark and a suckerfish. And so the shark mindset thing is becoming a thing because people understand that, you know what? We can impact our culture by developing better coaches who are leaders. And so when I come to a conference, I don't call you a leader, I call you a coach. And it's amazing just by calling a manager, a supervisor, a coach, man, their checks, they stick out their chest, but then they begin to think different. And I had a guy last week at a conference. He goes, he pulled me to the side. He goes, Walter, you know what? I need to drop my machete. And that's all he said to me. He's like, you know what? I need to drop my machete and pick up a whistle. There you go. Because I played sports. You can't play sports without confidence. Yeah. And so for leaders, I teach you the number one thing you got to do is build confidence. That's like foundational for any coach. You wouldn't let your kids play for a coach who tore them down at 8 years old. That would be odd, right? So why do we do it at 28, 38, 48? No, a coach's job is to build my confidence and also teach me the fundamentals of my industry so that I can reach my potential.
Beautiful. Well, man, all I can say is all of this is so impactful. And that's one of your words is impact. The book is amazing. You're amazing. You always get rave reviews. And I just am so happy you came on the show with me today. This is a conversation I will definitely be listening to again because there's so much good content in there. And that's what the meeting professionals want is takeaways.
Right. That's right.
And you're filled with them. So thanks so much for coming on the show, Walter. This has just been everything I thought it would be, actually, because you are somebody who has a very high bar and you deliver every time.
Well, thank you, Chris. And again, this shark mindset thing is becoming a thing. And it's really becoming a category of one because, people are looking for someone to open a conference or close a conference. And the truth is, some people are wrestling between, well, do we hire an athlete or a thought leader? When people book me, they get both.
Yeah.
I happen to be a professional athlete, but I'm a thought leader. My parents were teachers, right? And so I come in and I entertain your audience. I give them a little bit of the sports charisma, but I teach. And that's one thing I learned from my mom and dad, because I was a C student and I failed And man, all I wanted to do was make my mom and dad proud. And I had to become coachable. And if an audience is coachable, or if a C student will listen, follow directions, and execute, you can lift up anyone to become something special.
Yeah, and that's what you do, my friend. I mean, your smile is absolutely, magnetic, and your energy is like off the charts when you're on stage. It's a real awesome situation. I'd be surprised if you haven't had a standing ovation at almost every event you've done in the past several years. So
Well, I get a lot of that.
I know.
I'm after transformation. The standing ovations are wonderful, but honestly, I've been doing this 20 years. The standing ovation used to be exciting 15 years ago. Now I'm waiting for those emails to say, Walter, because of you, I did X, Y, and
Right.
since last year, we had a medical device company hit 113 million in their third year, and they were like, Walter, man, this is because of you, man. We got the sharp mindset. We hit 113 million in the third. That's what I'm looking for now, right? But the standing ovation is nice, right? But you know what? Transformation is much nicer.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Walter. This has been awesome. You're awesome, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. And everybody should read that book because it's impactful. Thanks
Wonderful.
again.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right.